What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome back to more C4. We got a little drama between one of my favorite players and an Eagles all-timer that needs to be addressed. Love to get your guys' vibes on where this is at. Is it a non-issue? It honestly might mean something, right? So yesterday, how this came up on my timeline, which given the political climate, pretty happy. That's like what I can lose my train of thought in when I log on to social media is Eagles drama and not whatever. CJGJ kind of just hits you with a, ominous, classic CJGJ type tweet, where it's just like, oh, he's pissed off about something. And then he hits you with like, oh, it's nothing to do with the team, we're good. And then so you're like, oh, is he upset that like Zach Bond and Saquon Barkley's contract got redid? Which, let's be honest, CJGJ, difference maker on the defense, brings a mentality that we severely lacked that year that he was in Detroit. I was very vocal on social media that offseason. CJGJ was my Zach Bond a couple years ago. He was the one guy I would prioritize. I have the receipts. But I went through it when we lost him. Now, there's always been a level of, he was one of my favorite players when he was on the Florida Gators. Liked him just generally when he was in the league as a shit disturber on the Saints. And then it was clear that he brought a mentality that fits the Eagles' mentality, fits the city of Philadelphia, whatever you want to call it. And I think he means a lot to the Philadelphia Eagles. However, the vibes were great last year as well. His season got a lot better. Didn't start out the best, but ultimately finished as like a really good safety. But not in the area code of like a Saquon, let's re-up, let's pay you more money. So the fact that he came out and said it was zero to do with the contract made sense. So then everyone's just like, well, what the hell is he going on about? And then we found out that Slay went on his podcast, which this is not the first time, man. Someone, I don't know if it was like a locker room vibes earlier in the year. Essentially, Slay was going on Micah Parsons' podcast. All these podcasts are stupid. I get it. I get why you have it. I get why these players, probably see Jason Kelsey having it, and like life after football. Let's have a podcast, secondary income. Is it really that much different than all these people that have Twitches and streaming? It is, but it isn't. I think, obviously, in a perfect world, podcasts, you don't need, not all these players need them. But Slay has a podcast, and he said this.
Because I do got a great leadership role in that secondary room. But I won't be surprised if Reed and them guys like Reed can, advance these guys. Reed be around me and a lot of other veterans that been here before. And I'm sure he can lead that group the right way. Because that's...
So... my opinion right away, hearing that, like if there was no reaction whatsoever, no response, no hurt feelings, no crashing out, as the kids say, I would still hear that and be like, that's weird. Like, to only mention one guy when CJGJ has, how many times have we seen on social media, like, leads the breakdown for the defense? He was easily, if you said right now, who's the vocal leader of the Eagles secondary? It is easily CJGJ. Who's the vocal leader of the Eagles defense? It is easily CJGJ. Who's the vocal leader of the Eagles as a whole? You could make an argument that it's CJGJ. Jalen Hurts loves him, gives the vibes. Jalen Hurts is our leader. Seems like a lot of times he'll de facto that to CJGJ. So the fact that you have a player like that is so clearly, I want to say, enamored with being a leader. Every time you hear him talk, press conferences, at the locker room, he embraces the fact that he can lead this team. He embraces the fact that he can have his mentality rub off on the team. He's a vibes guy. And the fact that Slay, it's not the issue that he mentioned Reed Blankenship, obviously. Exciting whites. Reed Blankenship absolutely could be a leader. But, he didn't mention, it almost felt like he went out of his way not to mention CJGJ, who is what Slay said Reed could be. It just felt weird, man. And then you have, the more come out that pretty much lets you know that that's what it was. Vet presence is always needed, don't get me wrong. But, bro, what vet is needed when young guys can hold their own? Q and Coop, and you got crazy duo with Reed and me. Supporting cast. So it's clearly he's talking about moving on from Slay, essentially. This one. So there's a beef going on here. And with the fact that Slay kind of left the door open. Philly kind of left the door open when he left to come back if the money's right. The money's equal. Slay already said on another freaking podcast, because he just does podcasts now. He's a podcaster. that he would return to Philadelphia if the money is equal in the same area code of like likely, you look at Baltimore could offer him a contract, Detroit, maybe Minnesota. And I think most fans, I assume Howie, Vic, Nick, would all welcome Slay back on a one-year rental so he could finish out his year as an Eagle. We could still use that veteran leadership in that corner room. It's still sophomore campaigns, potential of sophomore slump for Quinton Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. Having a stable guy like Slay out there could make a lot of sense, especially at the price between Slay and, say, Isaiah Rodgers. It's not that drastic. But now you have this, and it almost feels like, in a way, you might have to pick sides. And I think in this situation, I'm perfectly fine with the roster staying the way it is. And I think most fans should likely share a similar sentiment. Slay, this is on him, man. He basically, I'm using kid lingo. I mean, I'm in the bubble, but like sneak dissed, I believe is the proper term on CJGJ. It wouldn't have killed him to be like, hey, the guy that's clearly this vocal leader, I'm also going to just at least mention his name. The fact that he clearly went out of his way not to bring up Chauncey Gardner-Johnson feels like that was unnecessary from Slay. Kind of came off like a hater. Maybe there's some tension there, which is weird because it seems like they'd kind of be somewhat similar. Seems like CJGJ, good vibes. Seems like Slay, good vibes. Should have meshed well together. I don't know if things were said, but it's just weird, man. Really, really weird. I think ultimately why this is worth discussing is because the word on the street was, hey, if money's equal, don't rule out a return from Slay coming back to the Eagles. And now something like this, it could be unnecessary drama. It could be enough to be like, you know what? We don't need that drama. It's time to move on. It just adds another piece to how this Philadelphia Eagles team could approach, retooling that secondary a little bit in this offseason, getting ready for next year to go back and dominate the same way that defense was able to dominate this year. So I'd like to get what you guys think about this one. Is it anything? Is it nothing? Is it enough for you to feel somewhat confident that Slay is not coming back? Do you think it's a nothing burger? And if Slay does return, they'll be fine. They'll be Gucci. Let me know in the comment section below. But that'll do it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As always, your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. Until next time, it's your boy C4 saying peace out. Love ya. Have a good one.